Hi everyone. Someone has written in and asked me some questions about ear training, and I know we've never discussed this on in the shed, and I haven't taught it much, mainly because it's something that I haven't really learned how to teach properly, and I'm still figuring it out. But I'm going to try now, give you a few tips about ear training and how to get better at it. So first of all, us as bass players, we need to be able to hear things and hear harmony and hear melody and hear rhythms and know what they are so we can react to them in the musical situations. Doesn't mean we should copy the things that we hear, but we should know what's sort of going on so we're aware. Now, things like the more that we can just get rid of looking at sheet music or real books or blah blah, the better. If we can just play along with a record and try and pick it up by ear, that stuff is the best thing to do. And unfortunately, we're sort of glued to the page a lot, and that doesn't help us with our ear training. So transcribing, not looking at sheet music, putting on a standard, a version of a standard, and just trying to hear the changes and learn it that way, obviously, and then go and dissect it and figure out what you couldn't hear and say, oh, well, I didn't hear that chord was a sharp 5 chord or something, or whatever, being specific with that. So the more you can do that, the better. And the more you can do that in the situations that you are in, like in jam sessions or on gigs, and just don't look at the music. If you can do it, don't look at the music. Always try and train your ears on the bandstand and just make mistakes. Just learn by ear, make mistakes, and feel comfortable with those mistakes because you're learning. It doesn't have to be perfect every time, immaculate, especially if it isn't a serious gig, right? And sort of jazz needs that sort of element of figuring it out on stage too. So all of that stuff is great. If someone's teaching you a tune, get them to teach it to you by ear. Just play the chords through and try and learn the chords from them just playing the tune to you and try and remember it. I've been fortunate enough that there have been a couple of bands that I've been in where they've just sort of taught you stuff by ear rather than writing it out. And I know it takes longer, but it actually trains your ear to really be quick with that sort of thing. Same with melodies. If someone's like saying, can you play this little melody thing here? And just rather than get them to write it out, tell them just to play it to you and pick it up by ear. So these are maybe obvious to some of you, but maybe not, because we're all sort of, jazz is taught in schools too much, and there's it's being codified too much on paper. So I'm going to give you a couple of little tips to think about, and then I am really going to think about ear training exercises and talk to some of my good musician friends who are really on top of this subject. So for me, as a bass player, it's really important for me to know intervals. I mean, that's a standard thing. When you do these grade exams in the UK for little kids, they teach you to learn intervals. So if you don't know your basic intervals and you can't hear them, if someone plays, well, this is C, so what is this? What is that? If you can't hear that, and say that's the sharp 5th or flattened 6th, or, if you can't hear, what's that? It's the 5th, the major 7th. You've got to get good at that and knowing those intervals and knowing what the notes are. You can either say it's the major 7th or the B, but so that stuff you have to get together. The intervals, knowing every interval, all the chromatic intervals, right? And then also, actually, if this is C, it's also really important. No one really talks about it enough. It's going down again. What's that? What's that? It's an A flat to a C, right? Do the notes that are below the main note that you're going from, which is helpful for us as bass players because we have a sort of tonic or a key center, and then we can hear the notes in relation to that. So go through every note and get your friends to do it for you and give you ear training tests. I'm sure there's probably apps that do this sort of thing too. So that is a sort of basic starting point. Make sure that you know the intervals, and you can even go above the octaves. Then when you're comfortable with that, go figure out those intervals. What's this? Yeah. So that is intervals, learning your intervals by ear, not looking at the piano, not cheating, just using them by ear and picking them out. And that's obviously the beginning of that sort of thing. Now, One thing that's helped me for my ear training is being able to play a bit of piano or playing a few chords. And it's really important that you can do that, and so you can start hearing the sound of those chords, and so you know what they are. So if you're not good at that, I would practice that. Get good at the piano, or get good enough to play all the chords. So you can just play all the chords and half decent voicing, so you can hear what they sound like and what emotion they give off. So one thing would be to do first would be just to take, try and see, okay, try one key center and then just play lots of different chords. What's that? That's obviously C triad. Or now I've added the major 7, minor. I've added the 7th to the minor chord. I've added the 9th to the minor chord. Now I've got the 6th or the 13th in the minor chord. All these chords, just figure out what they are. What's that? That's got a major 7 in there, right? So you go through each chord. You've got the majors, the dominants, half diminished. And then also the dominant ones are kind of cool, to make sure that you get those alterations, that you know what they sound like. What's that? That's got the flat 9 in it, right? C, flat 9. What about this one? That's got the sharp 9 in it. Sharp 9 in it. That's got the sharp 9, the sharp 5 in it. That's a better voicing, same chord. That's got the flat 9, sharp 5 in it. That's got the flat 9, sharp 11 in it. That's got the sharp 9, sharp 11 in it. C. So all these little things are kind of cool to hear and really just get used to the sound of them. That's a very common sort of chord. I like to think of that sort of chord C, sort of C13 sus, C sus with 13, kind of sort of patronizing chord. Hey, smooth. So all these chords I'm sort of fairly familiar with, and just get familiar with their sound, and just learn them on the piano or a guitar, preferably the piano, and know what they sound like. Now, another thing which is good, which I just thought about, is get your key center, but also just play triads on top of that key and figure out what they are, their sound. That's a D flat triad over a C, right? What is that? What are these triads? Not playing major triads. D sharp. No, D triad over C. All these sounds. Very common sound. E over C, or it could just be C major 7 sharp 5. Blah blah blah. So sorry, I'm going through these very quickly, but this is just a sort of, to give you some ideas. It's not a specific lesson. So play the triads on the top of that pedal, and then hear what they are. Maybe record them into your GarageBand or Logic, and then get them to play them randomly, and then try and figure out what they are, those triads. That's another exercise. So then, and then also just getting used to playing on standards. Just play the chords of standards, learn the chords, and get used to the sounds of what are they, whatever they are. Or maybe have some ideas of the substitutions. All that sort of stuff. And if you just take 1 or 2 standards, doesn't have to be a bunch, but just really get inside the changes for that standard, and maybe some alternate changes, and really get that inside you, those sounds inside you, those chord qualities inside you. That has really helped me, just hearing harmony a bit better, and understanding what's going on, so we can react to those things in the moment. Someone has asked me to try and find specific examples of this sort of thing going on in music when I've played, or when other bass players are playing. So I'm going to do some research and try and find these specific examples where the bass player has reacted to a change of harmony and has played something different, or done something that's made music better because his ears are good. yeah, I'm going to do some research and let you know. But that's a quick lesson on ear training and some things that you can do to get you started. All right, thank you. Bye.